Joining us in the studio this morning, Dr. Jonathan Tripp, of course, from Tripp Family Medicine, right here in Twin Falls, Idaho. And I'm making sure I've got you on the right microphone because
Good morning.
it's nice to hear you.
We
Yeah.
got the right microphone. Sounds good.
We were having an off-air discussion because I was mentioning earlier that it felt good to get up this morning and not have to brush snow off the car or scrape the windshield off, which has been a somewhat of a routine event the last, well, we'll say, I guess, 8 weeks.
Yeah.
And it's unusual for winter around here because this is happens once every 10 or 15 years, from what I'm told. But it has on some people, it has a bigger impact than it does. Some people, it doesn't bother them because they go out, they snowshoe, they ski, they skate, they do all of those things. But by gosh, for some people, this time of year is
Just a chore to get through.
yeah.
Yeah. No, and so I was thinking about what should be our topic today, and just over and over and over for weeks has been the topic of all the winter issues, and whether it's the illness or being stuck inside, or I can't exercise so I'm not losing weight, or I'm gaining weight. Lots of things that all are blamed on the weather and the outdoor conditions, and it's very legitimate. People are afraid to walk and go outside. I had my own staff a couple of days ago after we'd had it kind of melt and then snow again. Just walking in from the parking lot, I had several either fall or nearly fall, and I was among them. So, um, you know, it's a very scary time, especially if you're a little older and more liable to break. So I thought, well, let's talk about the winter issues, and we're going to range from things that have to do with your how you feel emotionally, as well as the illnesses that are very prevalent right now. A lot of it is we have close contact, we stay indoors, um, and so we'll talk about illnesses in a wide range, or at least what I think is a wide range.
Now, in 10 days, we swing the clock forward an hour. Will that help some people? I mean, will that be more sunlight at the end of their day? Was that helpful?
I think it is to especially those that work kind of a 8 to 5, 8 to 6 kind of day that have had, they might look out a window during the day and just say, oh, the sun does actually come up, or at least it's a lighter gray sky. But by the end of the day, when they're walking out, it's all dark. I think having a couple hours afterwards that you can say, I'm still in the daytime, will feel better. Although I will tell you, those of us that have to get up earlier, where it's just starting to feel like you're waking up when the sun is coming up,
Hmm.
you're going back to, you'll feel like middle of the night. So that's a downside to it as well.
I was going to say, really, for a lot of people, when it comes to this seasonal depression they have, the amount of daytime light though is critical
It,
because I remember reading about these little boxes that people would sit in front of for half an hour to 45 minutes a day, and it has some impact on receptors in the brain, right?
yeah, no, it's called light therapy, and it has to do with not just getting a suntan on your face, but actual stimulation of the brain, which is not duplicated by watching TV or playing video games. It actually has to be certain brighter wavelengths of light, and it mimics what we see in daylight. So, yeah, let's talk about that. Seasonal affective disorder, or SADD. Uh, Whoever named that really worked at it. But, this is very prevalent anywhere in the farther northern hemisphere. The extremes would be like in Alaska, where, you have a good part of the year where they only have sun or light for several hours during a day, and it's dark the vast majority. So if you come from an area other than that, and that's not your custom, that's a very mood changing event that is fun to see for a week, but not for very long. And so, military invests a lot of money and effort into trying to help recruits that get sent to Alaska to keep them out of depression because of that type
I
of
had a friend who visited
thing.
Iceland, and he said that there would be times of the year during the extremes where, summer's great because there's maybe only 2 hours of darkness, but he said winter maybe only 2 hours of sunlight.
Yes, no, that's a difficult one to handle if you're from, shall we say, the lower 48. Um, Seasonal affective disorder is a formal diagnosis for people that, with grayer weather, darker weather, less light, they get truly depressed. But there's a lot of us that will say that we feel better when it's a blue sky. And that doesn't mean you have full out depression, but at the same time, it has an effect. And, you notice it by your mood or the mood of others around you. Um, you know, you think of, I think of an old movie called Grumpy Old Men, and that took place, I think, in Minnesota. And,
Yeah.
that really fits with the mood of most people during a long
The
winter.
snow always seemed to be 3 feet deep in the movie.
Yeah,
Yeah, I
we all think that this is a long bad winter, and it for us it is. But at the same time, we'll talk about mood swings and depression, and a little bit more about what you can do, and then we'll move on to illness.
we've got more coming up with Dr. Jonathan Tripp this morning. It's called Better Health with Tripp Family Medicine. And remember, life's too short not to feel good. In fact, today's a good reminder of that. Some of the topics we're talking about. It's 32 right now at 8:40.
To school.
Dr. Jonathan Tripp joining us in studio this morning. I was sharing a story of a year I spent in graduate school in Buffalo, New York, where some parts of the city in 1 month alone had over 100 inches of snow. And the newspaper put out an overlay map, and the lightest snow in the center of the city that month, 70 inches, which would be, we don't have 70 inches here in an entire winter unless there's a really bad freak storm or two. That was 1 month. And as I say, on the edges of the city, the north and south sides, where the lake effect snow is hitting the hardest because they have two lakes, one on the north Ontario, one on the south Erie. In 1 month, they had over 100 inches of snow in those neighborhoods. That's a lot of stuff to move with a snow shovel every day.
Yeah, that's a lot of stuff. So good exercise, isn't that
Yeah.
part of what we wanted to talk about? So with not being able to get out, shorter time with light, being stuck inside, dealing with grumpier people, we tend to get our own mood swings. And, it doesn't mean you're always down, but at the same time, if you find yourself kind of being shorter fused, and grumpier, pay attention. And then we'll talk about some stuff you can do with this. In fact, um, if you're struggling with this, I would say call our office. Come see us because I'll tell you some simple things, and that is if we check your vitamin D level, which is a blood test, we can give you some very good and quick vitamin D recovery, which for I would say about half of the people we treat, it's a dramatic increase in their mood, improvement in their mood and energy. Just kind of sense of well-being goes way up. So that's one, but especially if you're feeling pretty down and even short-term use of some non-addictive medicines will really make a difference in how you feel within a couple of weeks. So I'd encourage that. We're going to talk about illnesses because some big things that people are struggling with are colds that seem to last forever, or bronchitis that just won't go, a cough that you can't get rid of. Things as simple sounding as sinus infections. Um, we're seeing a fair amount of strep throat. We're seeing a lot of flu. And what's really interesting is this year, as opposed to last year, the flu vaccine seemed to hit on target with the prevalent flu, and it's influenza A that seems to be most prevalent this year. And so those that got the vaccine either have no flu or they have a short duration of about 24 to 48 hours of
And this season's going to continue for another month or so, right?
yeah, yep. And so I honestly ought to ask this question. I don't know if we still have flu at our office, flu vaccine, but I would encourage you either through South Central Health District, maybe some of the pharmacies. I'd get it because it has the impact for avoiding flu, and the flu kicks your whole body. You get body aches, you get headaches, you get cough, congestion, and then it lasts for 7 to 10 days.
We've had somewhere in the neighborhood, just in Idaho, though, about 50 deaths caused by it so far this season.
Yeah, there's significance, but we usually think of the flu as just an inconvenience, but for especially the extremes of age, really young or really old, or compromised in their immune system, the flu can kill you.
Would you recommend that even very young children get the shot?
Yeah, no, there's different vaccines for the different age groups, like under 4 as well as over 65. So they have different doses, different types. Um, so your maybe your doctor's office, but for sure our South Central Health District located at CSI campus would be an excellent resource for that. Um, and then if you do catch it or you think you got the flu, come see us because there is a prescription. There's two of them, but Tamiflu is probably the most commonly known,
Hmm.
and it's not cheap, but it does really decrease the amount of symptoms as well as the duration. It is not a cure, but it sure helps a lot. So there are things we can do there. But kind of moving on to our more common things, you think of strep throat, and you think, oh, little kids get that. Well, our recent diagnoses have been predominantly at least upper teens and mostly adults that we're seeing this, and they're surprised, because they haven't had this since they were a kid. But strep throat is pretty prevalent, and with the flu or any viral infection, it can morph into a secondary infection of pneumonia. And that's where the flu really gets serious, or any viral infection. You got a cough and kind of moves from your throat to your chest.
And that would be toward the tail end of being
Typic,
feverish and all of that.
typically is. My own experience with my daughter was she was about probably 12 years old, 13 years old, had the flu when we had the great big swine flu epidemic. And she got through 5 days of being in bed. I've been listening to her lungs the whole time, worried about pneumonia. Day 6, she like became a new person and said, "I'm all better." Day 7, she came back to me and pointed to her chest and said, "I got this little tight spot." And I listened to her lungs. Sure enough, she now had pneumonia. And my belief is she was done with the flu. This was a secondary infection because of the flu. So these are really kind of serious things. And with the viral infections or strep throat come earaches, little kids and big kids too. And so a lot of times if we see a fever in a child that's over 101 and a half, now we're starting to look for other causes, more serious things like the pneumonia, like the earaches, things like that. And let me just throw in something about our own office. We have been an office that has not provided immunizations for children in large part as we were starting. We're just, there's so many things to do, and we're an independent office. We don't have a big corporation trying to help support us or do things for us. But we have gone to the state, and they're going to introduce immunizations for children in our office. And I can't tell you the exact date, but I know it's going to be about mid April. And so if you have young children and the only reason you're not coming to our office is because you can't get the immunizations, that's changing. So we would welcome you, and we love to see the kids. In fact, my own visits, the staff know that if I have a 3-year-old, even if they're sick, that's usually the better visit of my whole day. So that'll be a new invitation to say, hey, you can get it all one-stop shop, and that's exactly what we're trying to do is be true family medicine. So lots, little excitement there for us to see more children. But so what can we do to improve all this stuff? Because we're truly in a circumstance where the weather will get better. Let me throw out that little
Will.
hope. It will get better. The snow will go away, the ice will go away, and not too many months from now we'll complain about the heat and the wind, and actually in about a month we'll probably complain about the wind. Springtime in Twin Falls. Um, but for now, when days remain cloudy or remain cold and there's ice on the ground or snow on the ground, things we can do. One is exercise, and that I can't tell you how important that is. Whether it's walking up the stairs in your own home, whether you go to a gym, whether you can find a safe place to walk outside, any of that is helpful.
Do you hear though from patients who say, "I can't afford a workout club," um,
Yes, I hear.
but I guess you could probably tell them that even if it's a $500 membership a year, in the long run, they'll probably save more money with other issues that come up.
Absolutely. No, from a health dollar point of view, spending money on a gym, spending money on even equipment for your own home,
There are some inexpensive treadmills, and sometimes you can buy them secondhand, right?
I've got one for sale. Somebody needs one. It's been in storage for a long time. I use somebody else's now. So, but no, absolutely, secondhand would be an easy one. I look at things like the great trail that we have along the canyon. That is just a phenomenal place to
Mhm.
go walk, and you can go slow, you can go fast, you can jog. But what a great vista to have as you are out and about. That alone, I think, will lift a lot of spirits. So exercise is one. Eating, interesting. As we sit in the house and we pull out, chips, and I won't pick on just the chips, but the things that are high carb, high fat, high sugar, all the prepared foods that come out of a bag. They're so nice and convenient. And if you don't want to do anything and you just, you're sitting around and you just, live off of that, you're now putting in your body stuff that is harder for your body to work with. And in a way, while you eat, you might say, "Oh, this tastes really good," but it'll actually push your mood further down. So I would encourage making some of your own food, eating really fresh vegetables. This sounds cliche, but fruits and vegetables, especially more vegetables, more legumes, um, moderate amounts of meat and proteins. These are all things that will really help support your body into feeling better and doing better.
If you're eating peanuts and the like, I guess you'd want to avoid the ones heavily salted, and stick with something that might be plain.
Yeah, the if you especially have high blood pressure or a tendency for swelling, high salt intake will cause you trouble. Um, you know, I love nuts, all kinds mixed. You name it, I like them. Those are good for high protein, but they're also very high fat. So a limited amount of nuts to kind of spice up your life, that's great. But I wouldn't live on the mixed nuts can. That will cause you more trouble than you want. But things like hummus. A lot of us don't even know what that is, but hummus is a great vegetable dip, so to speak, that has relatively low fat, good level of protein, as well as some complex carbohydrates. So if you like to dip things, grab celery, grab carrots, grab, sliced up red, yellow, orange bell peppers, any kinds of, even like snap peas would be great. And you dip that like you would chips in a dip, and that's a great choice. Another one that has become one of my favorites is mixing half a cup of cottage cheese with uh, my favorite is a Greek yogurt. So I put those two together, low calorie Greek yogurt or even plain, and add in some berries. Um, You'll be amazed how low calorie and high protein, high energy that is, and you feel like you've had a major meal. So there's a couple suggestions on what to do with eating. But as far as how to avoid illness, watch out for who you kiss. How's
Yeah,
that?
yeah,
Is that a fair one? Now that we're past Valentine's Day, um, no. The reality is wash your hands every time you're about to eat. That's probably the single biggest thing I can do. You could have dirty hands all day long, something contaminated, until you touch your eyes, your nose, your mouth. Chances are you're not going to get sick. But if you will wash your hands just before you eat, you've avoided most of the contamination that you gathered throughout the day.
yeah. I'm in a situation where we shake hands at church not once but twice,
Yeah, many times.
and I've seen people literally after they finish pull out the hand sanitizer and use that.
Yep.
Uh, and that's the. It seems to me the two times I was sick this winter, both came about shortly
About
after.
2 days after church.
Yeah,
Yep. No, I have that experience when we homeschooled our kids as younger children. Tuesday was always the day they got sick, and that was because Sunday they were at church. And so, they just shared with somebody else. So I think the hand sanitizer is a good idea. Actually, washing your hands with good old plain soap and water is better. And what's really nice is we're turning away from the bacterial soaps. The FDA has given about a year for companies to take the antibacterial products out of the soap because what they're finding is they're creating more resistant bacteria, and I think that's a great move. I think it's 10 years late, but that's me. And uh, but good old plain soap and water is about as good as it gets. You know, so if you are with somebody that's coughing a lot, you can also inhale what's called respiratory droplets that are infected, and that is another way to catch it. So, if you have somebody that you know is sick, especially if they're in your home, getting a hold of a mask, kind of like you see used in a hospital or surgical situation, and they're available at drugstores. You don't have to go to the hospital to get them. But just having that on, letting them keep that in would be better than, uh, you know, sharing with everybody else. And then there's lots of over the counter remedies that we can do to help with cough. I have some favorites. I'll put this out there for those of you that want to write down a long word. It's called chlorpheniramine. Guess you'll have to look that up. But,
Yes.
these are some of the things that work as well as codeine for controlling cough. So lots of things we can help with if you're having trouble. If you're having trouble breathing, that's an immediate let's see you today or get you to the emergency room. If you have high fever, let's get you in today. That's one of the beautiful things about being able to run our practice. We are not an urgent care, but because we want to be your complete family medicine practice, if you're sick or you're hurt, our intent is to get you in today.
How do people get in touch with your office?
Well, let's try a phone number 208 933 4400. That's 208 933 4400. And then you can also contact us through the web at trippfamilymedicine.com or give us a post or a like at Tripp Family Medicine on Facebook. We've had some really fun recent posts that just it's wonderful because we get good feedback from patients that have had good experience long term. Oh, we're in a month we're coming up on our 5th anniversary, so that's helpful for people to know. They'll be surprised they don't even know we exist, but we've been around for 5 years, and we'll be planning an anniversary party in the middle of July for those that are patients. So you better become a patient soon.
We also want to point out we're going to have a show coming up soon where we're just going to be asking people what ails you, um, and just seeing what people have on their minds when it comes to maybe their own concerns or illnesses and the like.
Yeah, health in general. I think this is next week. We're essentially opening up the show for just callers. We don't have a planned agenda. So if you have thoughts or questions that you'd like to share or ask, we would be happy to do that. I think that'll be a lot of fun. If I don't know, be prepared for me to say I don't know. But I will do my best to give the same advice I would if you were in my office.
You'll do better than I will with that. Don't take my medical
I
advice.
I
Take his.
I think that'll be a lot of fun because we come prepared with topics, but if listeners want to create a show, let's do it next week. So we'll plan on that next Wednesday.
So we'll see you again soon.
That'll be great.
Dr. Jonathan Tripp joining us this morning in the studio. Coming up on 9 o'clock. In the next half hour, we're going to be talking to some people who are working on a project. If you've ever seen that TV show, This Old House, well, it's sort of an Idaho version of it. We're talking about a high end renovation that's taking place in Cassia County and that could take place at your home, your business, or even your camp. All the details in the next half hour following news from Fox right here on News Radio 1310, KLIX, and newsradio1310.com.